I belonged to the Mexican army. I'd been there for a while, and around 2016, I was off duty with nothing to do. I had a colleague, Don Pedro. He was one of those old guys who didn't seem interesting at all and didn't give you any reason to think badly of him. Or well, at least that's how he appeared. One afternoon, I went to Don Pedro's store, since he was the shopkeeper I liked to buy from because, unlike the others, he was the only one who didn't judge me or even say anything about me being an active member of the Mexican army. Back then, this old man had also served in the 70s and spent all of the 70s and part of the 80s on active duty until, if I remember correctly, he left the service in 81. Now that I remember, he was one of those old guys in his 50s who didn't care about anything. But still, he was cool, of medium height and somewhat gray-haired, both in his hair and in part of his beard. An old man you can tell knows too much and above all, has seen and heard it all. That day I went to buy from him. I greeted him as usual, and honestly, I don't even know how I got to that point. But after a while, I leaned against the wall where he served customers and took payment. I was already really into it. On the subject of his experiences, we could say strange and even curious ones about witches, Nahuales, apparitions, and all that kind of stuff. I was messing around with him, talking about that until, like the young girl I was, I blurted out,
I wish I could hunt one of those to see what happens when you shoot them and take them down.
I shouldn't have said that, because the old man smiled and stroked my hand. I almost hit him, thinking he was one of those old creeps after me, but he wasn't. He began with a phrase that still sticks with me.
So you want to hunt those things too? You remind me of myself in my 20s. When I started in the Mexican army, I went to hunt those things in the mountains of Durango and Chiapas. Believe me, it's fun. I know you're the quiet type, so I trust you, girl. Do you want to join a club where we hunt witches and Nahuals? Look, I'll lend you one since you can't have your own gun. By the way, you're going to need to change your shorts and your shirt, as well as your shoes, because we hunt up in the hills. Look, come in, I'll show you my witch killer. Don't worry, I won't hurt you, I'm alone.
Indeed, I went in, although I was alert, thinking that maybe he wanted to do something to me, like rock house or something. But no. Don Pedro, lowering his hunting rifle, showed me a Remington rifle. I don't remember what model it was, but the one he had was a very well-kept piece with impeccable wood. Ever since he brought it down, it truly caught my attention. It looked really good, well-crafted. By the time I realized it, I already had it in my hands. It felt solid, well-made. Having something like this gives you a sense of security and power that I hadn't felt before. Not even with the G3. After that, I only remember getting home, putting on pants, my long gothic boots, a long sleeve shirt, and grabbing a black cap. At night, I went to where Don Pedro told me the rest of the people were, who just like me were supposedly going to hunt animals. 2, so the cops wouldn't show up, I carried my backpack and the rifle. I arrived at the spot on the hill. It was all wilderness and rough paths. Nothing that I hadn't faced before as an active member of the Mexican army. There were 15 other people. When I arrived, just like me, everyone had rifles, and there were 2 kids, 15 years old, with hunting shotguns. We waited until 11 at night, made the plan, and split up. I took one of the kids with me to look after him, since nobody wanted him. I think his name was Jerry, although I'm not really sure. He followed me, scared and shy. For my part, with the training and experience I had at that point, all I could do was calm him down and keep him quiet so they wouldn't run away from us. I calmed him down the whole way until we reached a rock half covered by the bushes, and that's where I stayed. And the next thing when we arrived was to keep him quiet because he was already wanting to go back and bail. I didn't leave him alone the whole time we climbed up. By that point, it was almost 12:30 at night. The kid was scared as hell, but there was no way I was going to let him bail. He was my responsibility, and I wasn't going to let him bail or even consider it. He got himself into this, so he was staying with me. I yelled at him.
Shut up already, you dumbass. We're screwed if you keep talking like that. If you keep it up, I'll tape your mouth shut so you'll be quiet.
That was enough to shut him up, although honestly I did notice something from that point on. It had been a while since I heard crickets, or animals, or even saw the other 14 who were around. I raised the rifle and started looking through the rifle scope that Don Pedro had given me, and sure enough,
no, nothing could be seen.
I don't know when the kid grabbed my backpack, but somehow he did. I only turned around because of the distinctive sound of my wallet opening. When I turned around, he was already looking at my IDs, both my voter ID and my military identification card. I just turned around quickly, took the wallet from him, and gave him a smack.
Don't ever touch my stuff again, you son of a butcher.
I got over my anger and calmed down because I knew it wasn't normal that nothing could be heard, especially when we were climbing the hill. You could clearly hear the crickets and the sounds of the night. I sat down and started looking around again with the rifle that Don Pedro had lent me a few hours earlier. I couldn't see SOYs. The kid behind me stayed scared and didn't even load his shotgun. He just stood there frozen.
Sergeant, can we go now? I'm really scared. I know something bad is going to happen. I can feel it.
I didn't even pay attention to him. But if there's one thing I admit, it's that despite my negligence and ego at that moment, even though he wanted to bail, he didn't leave, he stayed with me. I stayed like that for quite a while, thinking only a little time had passed until I checked my watch on my wrist and it was 2:40 in the morning. I was shocked. I kept scanning with the rifle until I noticed something. I hadn't realized it at the time, but for a while there had only been one animal, just a cat. Nothing seemed wrong until I realized that the cat, he seemed to have more intelligence than usual. He was sniffing and looking at the tracks and following them as if he were one of us, like me. And the other thing was that it was unusually big. It was almost as tall as half my leg. I had never seen one like that before. And the second thing, its eyes were more like a human's than a cat's. And the third thing was that unlike a cat, it moved on two legs like a human. And instead of paws, it had hands, like a human, although they were covered in cat hair. Despite my supposed experience and courage, there was something that made me hesitate a lot and left me half paralyzed. I don't know how he did it, but he just stood up on two legs and looked straight at me. He smiled with human teeth and human eyes, looked at me, and with his two paws in the air, he waved at me. I took a breath. I snapped out of the trance, and while he, the cat, was laughing at me, I shot at him. I grabbed his arm, the cat took it back and started running on two legs. He disappeared into the woods, and honestly, I laughed. I grabbed the rifle, focused my thoughts, and lifted the boy.
He picks up the rifle. I picked it up.
Porque le di, pero parece que no estaba solo porque escuché que gritó, vámonos, levántate, sal del pinche trance, hay que irnos.
I threw the water bottle on her, and that snapped her out of the trance. She quickly grabbed everything and we left however we could. And honestly, during part of the journey, I swear I put the kid in front of me and he ran quickly. I went behind him to watch his back. Like I said, he was my responsibility, so I was going to protect him. While I was behind him, I swear I felt like maybe some big dogs were following us. I started firing the last 4 bullets I had in the rifle without really looking back, and I heard a dog barking, not so much out of pain but out of anger, because I had done something to it, and I heard how it started to speed up to catch up with me. The last bullet, and then I heard it fall and howl in pain. We reached the town and descended the hill at about 3:20 a.m. The rest were there, along with some police officers already coordinating our search, and almost the whole small town was there too, getting ready with machetes, flashlights, and whatever else to go out and look for the kid and me on the hill. As soon as the kid arrived, he collapsed and fainted, and I just stopped and looked back and nothing. The whole night was chaos and questioning from the police. By 5 in the morning, everything was over. The kid had gotten sick with a fever, and honestly, he spent 2 weeks in bed until he recovered. The thing was, the next day, I slept through the morning and woke up in the afternoon because Don Pedro had come to visit me and to ask for his rifle, since I forgot to give it back to him. I opened the door and let him in, and I offered him something to eat. I was preparing it for him when he suddenly gave me the news.
Hey girl, what happened last night? What did you see? You're acting strange. Didn't you hear they found an old man in the hills missing an arm, and further back, another old man with wounds to the chest and leg? And above all, your boy Jerry, who was with you last night, did he get sick?
As soon as I heard that, I turned around, and without a doubt, Don Pedro knew it too, just like me from having been in the Mexican army.
It was you, right? Congratulations, girl. Those old men already had rumors going around that they were Nahuales. They would steal underwear from young girls about your age. and it was said that they would sneak into houses to suck on the girls, and they say that's how they killed 2 of them, although I don't know if that's true. The good thing is that if it really was them, you've brought peace to the town. Come on, let's go to the store. I'll buy you some cookies or whatever you want to help you calm down.
I just went over and sat down, and I spent a long time without responding. I just accepted it when I came out of the trance. I went with Don Pedro to his store. He gave me one of the chiqueño breads from Veracruz, which are typical of Chico. Veracruz, big, tasty, and sweet breads for calming your nerves. After that, the last week I was off and resting, everything was peaceful in the town. Nothing happened and everything calmed down. Although that was what confirmed everything. All of it. Those old men they found dead were the Nahuales who were stalking the town. Like I said about Jerry, he was sick for 2 weeks, but he recovered and was as good as new again. I went back to active duty, and from there, everything was about returning to my normal life and, in a way, trying to forget that scare I had. All because I tried to act tough with things I didn't understand.